Small enough to fit into your pocket, but can replace your main setup. Small camera, big results. Can this small camera live up to the hype? Here's my 2-month experience. Here is the DJI Osmo Nano. So when it comes to videography, if you're somebody that's just like me, I'm about convenience, putting out a good product, and something that's gonna save me less of a headache. So being a videographer, people need to know who you are. People are curious what goes into your creative process. How do you film? How do you shoot? Who is this person and why should I book them to film my videos? So if you have this issue of getting BTS content and you're somebody like me that sees an inconvenience of having a secondary camera, setting up the tripod, making sure you're in the right proper frame, everything is exactly how it needs to be to set you up the best without taking away too much from your actual shoot from the get-go. These are just a few examples of why I decided to get the DJI Osmo Nano. So to capture behind the scenes content, having a full rig set up when you already have a main rig set up just isn't practical. Does this small camera have all the features that I will need to produce my behind the scenes content? So for some quick hits of this camera, it shoots in 4K, it has a slow motion mode, you can shoot time lapse, you can take pictures with this camera, and it also has 3 stabilization modes. So for starters, this absolutely checks all of my boxes when I need to film BTS content. One thing about this camera that I thought was extremely dope was that with most action cameras, the vision dock and the actual camera are connected and not detachable. With this, you simply click the buttons and then release, and they do snap back together because they're magnetic and it fits back into the grooves. But the whole point of this is that I can simply look at my vision dock and then point my camera anywhere I would like, and I can still look through my vision dock right here. And also, with it being a rectangular base all around this small camera, it can also sit up vertically, which I think is super dope if I want to film my social media style content for Instagram, TikTok, and so forth. And if that wasn't enough, the back of it is magnetic. So you can literally stick this anywhere that has a metal surface to it and it will just snap right into place. So one of the biggest questions about this camera is, yes, it can do all these things, but how is the battery life on this? So for starters, if you have the vision dock with you handy and close, and you have your camera, of course, you can snap it back together and it will charge the top camera while it's connected to the vision dock. So it doesn't matter which way it's facing. As long as it magnetically connects here at the bottom and you snap it, it's going to charge the actual camera. So that right there is pretty clutch to have a chargeable vision dock. But of course, you would have to charge the vision dock itself with a Type-C charger. So in here will be where you charge your camera, and also here's where you put your micro SD card. So it takes your typical micro SD card. I just have my Lexar 256 gigabyte. So one small complaint I do actually have about this camera is that when I typically film something, I want to take the SD card out, export it to my computer of some sort, and get to editing. This isn't that simple with this camera. So actually one small complaint I actually do have about this camera is that you can't take your micro SD card, take it out and get to exporting and, you know, creating your content. You actually have to connect the camera back to the vision dock and export your footage to the SD card. It doesn't really take long, but it's just one of those nuances. It's like an extra step to get into do what I want to do in relation to my creation. So to do that, you would just swipe down and then go over and then click export to SD card and then confirm. And it usually does not take that long at all. It just all depends on like how much footage or photos or how long your time lapses were when you captured it. Pretty much how much storage did you use to transfer over. So you just hit confirm and then it's ready to go on your SD card. So there's 2 different options you can do when purchasing this camera, and that is the storage that it comes with inside of the camera. So there's 64 gigabytes and 128 gigabytes. And since I looked at the specs and looked at how I'm going to transfer over my footage, I knew about this feature of having to export your footage to the SD card. So me not necessarily knowing, how much footage I'm gonna capture or how much storage I will be initially using with this, I went ahead and got 128 gigabytes. So just to be on the safe side, so I could have enough wiggle room to export to my micro SD card. So another concern I had about this camera is, how is the low light? How are the lighting settings inside of this camera? Can I change my ISO? Can I adjust my shutter? Is there a certain range I can set it at? Like, what are my options with this? Because all I needed to do was film BTS content, but if I can really get creative and really maximize and push this small camera, then, I'ma do so. So one thing I did find interesting with this is that, yes, it answered all my questions. So you would come over here to preferences and go to exposure auto. This, when it's in auto, it will put it within a certain range. I found out when I'm filming, especially outside, when I have it between 100 to 1600 auto, it puts out the best quality and the best visual look that I'm trying to go for. You can change this to manual, but I like to keep it on auto so I can have that quick setup and like just stick this camera anywhere to get my BTS footage quick and efficiently so I can get to, my main shoot using my main camera. So I like to keep that here. And also leading over to some other specs, it does shoot in D-Log M 10-bit, which is exactly the same as most of the DJI drones, which gives you the ability to color correct and color grade, to your liking and put out the best image quality and the similar color profile to, what you use for your main camera setup. So there won't be any big differences when putting out your final product. So this having D-Log and with adjustable ISO settings, this is already, more than I'm requesting, more than I need. So I usually keep my white balance at 45K throughout my scenarios whenever I'm filming basketball inside of the gym or filming football or soccer or lacrosse on the outside fields. This is where I like to keep my settings, and it's what worked with me the best when filming what I need to film. So moving along, it has endurance mode, which I'm not too concerned with my shooting time. I want to put out the best image quality possible. So I typically keep this off. And then also I typically film sports. So I like to keep it on sports to get that good motion blur that I need. And also for my image adjustments, I like to make my texture -2 since I am filming in D-Log, and I like my noise reduction to be -1. These are features that I specifically use to get the best image output and the best quality. Just for some additional features, since we're already here, when you swipe up, that's where you can get into your image quality setting. So I usually shoot in 4K with a 16:9 resolution and 30 frames per second. But they also have other settings where you can go to 1080p, for instance, and you can crank up your frames per second. You can also film in a ratio aspect of 4:3, 2K with 4:3, 16:9, and obviously 16:9 and 4:3. But I like to keep things typically at 30 frames per second with a 16:9, since when I'm editing Premiere Pro and I'm exporting, I keep my export settings at 30 frames per second. So I like to match what I'm gonna do with my camera when it comes to working in my workflow with Premiere Pro. So all in all, I am super pleased with this tiny cam based off how light it is, how small it is, the convenience of it, the quality, how durable it is. But there's a few things that still makes me not so pleased, but it definitely does not overweigh the benefits of having this camera. And that is the battery life. Overall battery life, depending on like how long you want to shoot, the battery is gonna die eventually after about a couple of hours. But I usually have one of my V-mount batteries that I use for my main rig setup. So all I need to do is just attach it right quick with the C charger, and then it charges up fairly quickly. Between that and the SD card, having to transfer that over, these are like small little things, but I'm not lacking in my quality. I'm not lacking out in my convenience. I'm not lacking in the overall purpose of why I picked this camera up in the first place. So with 10 YouTube videos later and about 30 plus social media pieces of content that I use with this camera, I will say that there are zero regrets with buying this camera. So if you're like me and you want to get that BTS footage, you want to film yourself filming or take pictures of yourself filming, then this is a game changer. This has actually been one of the benefits and helped me get back into the creating content space. This little thing has made me fall back in love with the process. Something that is super mindless. So I highly recommend this for any type of content creator, any type of travel vlogger, any type of person that wants the entry super basic level into just filming in general. I think this is one of those things where you can easily just set up attached to anything, be super incognito when filming in the right way, and without having the pressure or having a feeling that, hey, you have to take all this stuff with you, you have to set everything up, or you just want to get comfortable with talking in front of a camera. This little camera makes it easy. It makes it super simple and it makes it mindless. But most importantly, if you're a video content creator and you want something small, lightweight, but still powerful, the DJI Osmo Nano is the way to go. Your boys, please. Thank y'all for watching. I have Amazon affiliate links attached down below. So, click on those, search around, maybe make a purchase of the DJI Osmo and the accessories. If you don't mind, the 64 gigabyte is hovering around 380 bucks and the 128 gigabyte is floating around 410 bucks. But I still think at that price point, it is still very much worth it. And yeah, so hopefully this helped you out. Hopefully you grab you one and, just fall back in love with the creative process and putting out content like I did myself. Thank y'all for watching and stay tuned for more content coming, more on the way. I'm super excited to be back into this space. And if you're new to the channel, welcome aboard, like, comment, and subscribe. Tell some friends. Let's all support one another in this creative space. And that's all I got for y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. Much love.